Welcome to As the Dinosaurs Turn, where we chronicle the adventures of the Dinosaur family, a seemingly ordinary family from Iowa who decided, hey, you only live once, so let's move to Portugal. And now your hosts, Jason and Tracy Dinosaur.
Well, hello and welcome to As the Dinosaurs Turn.
It's like an adventure. And I can't even believe we're coming up on 2 years.
We are 2 years here in Portugal and 9 months since we've done a podcast.
It's been a little bit crazy.
A little bit crazy.
A little bit.
But we wouldn't expect anything else out of us, I guess.
It definitely wouldn't be us if it were crazy.
Never a dull moment. That's kind of our tagline. Isn't that what I said when we were engaged and we had that little get together the night before our wedding? And we played some game about what would your life be called if it was a TV show.
And that's exactly what it was. This is where As the Dinosaurs Turn comes from. Actually, you said it would be As the Dinosaurs Turn because there's never a dull moment.
That's right.
And I think that is totally true. There's never a dull moment. I wouldn't have it any other way, but I think that he gets a good benefit of being married to a person who changes themselves all the time and is always learning new things. And I get the benefit of being married to somebody who's a hardcore entrepreneur and has great ideas and follow through. So between our own devices and our luck, I guess you could call it luck, maybe lack thereof, it has definitely been an eventful 9 months.
It has been. Well, we tried to come up with a schedule after after our April 15th or whatever episode, we were going to come up with a schedule and have themes. And that just kind of never happened. We did come up with ideas of what to talk about, but
we figure like in this one, we really just need to let you know kind of what we've been doing because a lot of things have changed. We're still living in Povo de Lanoso. We're still living in our apartment in Fonte Arcada. But there's been a lot of kind of good things that have happened. Both boys passed to the next class. So they passed to the next level. Jackson is now in secondary school, studying multimedia technology and loving all of the content that he's doing, but then also having the benefit of being, he says, much further along than his colleagues. So I don't know if that's true or not, but grades reflected it pretty well. I mean, it's on a 20-point scale and a 10 is passing. And he has everything. His lowest grade is a 12 or a 13, and he has all the way up to 18, which I'm told is impossible to get. So good for him.
Good.
And then Tyler's doing great, other than not memorizing his science vocabulary enough. So we'll be working on that this year. But things are going really well for them. They have a lot more confidence. I think that you have a lot more confidence too with language. And I think that they're seeing that too.
Well, I've had to go out a few times on my own and do certain things, and I've survived, I guess.
Well, you always survive. It's not like if you're a poor language speaker, they're like off with your head. It doesn't work that way.
I suppose so.
Yeah. But I think that showing them and doing the risks and taking those risks has been good. And they're really giving him a hard time about not doing as much as he could be. So I think that's part of the reason why he started going out and doing more things and making it a challenge. It's kind of a game for you, right?
Mm-hmm.
So because the boys are feeling pretty cocky. They're feeling pretty good. They can understand everything they say. But they're not speaking very much. So they're working on that, supposedly. We'll see.
I can understand sometimes.
Yeah.
It depends on the speed of the speaker a lot of times. And moment to moment, I never know. Sometimes it's like, oh, I know everything they said. And then other times it's like, I have no clue what that person just said.
Well, and my language skills have gotten immensely better, ironically, because I'm teaching English. So I'm working at the Instituto Luso-Británico of Guimarães. So it is the British Institute there. They've been there for a very long time. They have an excellent CELTA pass rate of their employees, and then their students do great at all the Cambridge exams. So I'm there teaching 12, 13-year-olds, and then all the way up to 15, 16-year-olds, working in the evenings. But with that, comes a lot of Portuguese thrown at you, and very fast. They have they don't hold back at all. And so my comprehension's gotten really good, and I've been able to speak more coherently and cogently. Last year, even in the summer when we were working on our things, even though I was speaking at the atelier and all of that, it wasn't enough speaking and enough input. And so now that I'm teaching several times a week, and I have, of course, like my colleagues, we all speak English with each other because they're all English speakers. They're all native English speakers. So I think that's been a big difference for me, is getting the teenage information. I do have to say they still use American slang wrongly, like they don't use it correctly. So now I'm also correcting their slang. But they use American slang while they're speaking Portuguese, which is always entertaining. So we've had a few of those conversations, but that's been fantastic. And it's so good to be back in the classroom again, to be at the point where I'm not so burnt out I can't do it. And to be creative and silly with them has been so much fun. Did I ever think I would be teaching 6th, 7th graders? No. It definitely helps that I have a child who is 13 years old. And I don't think I ever would have considered it otherwise. So I do have to admit that the older kids are still easier for me to teach and connect with. But that's because I'm not stellar at really stern classroom management. So I'm going to be working on that this term.
I just have to bring up that Portuguese kids are good kids, but they're very energetic, are they not? Like, it's not like they sit there like perfect little angels.
No, I mean, they are, my students are brilliant. They're fantastic. This is a private school that they go to after they've been at school all day long. So there's also a lot of status in going to this school as well. Some of their parents have been to this school, so there's all of these elements that are kind of intertwined with that. We're meant to be fun as well. So it's not like I'm going to treat them as I would if I were their teacher during the day. There's that. But yes, smart, brilliant, funny, very loud, very loud, very active. Right. And I'd say that I am thankfully not having to deal with battles against telephones too much. I mean, they're banned in our school, they're banned at their schools now. So it's one of those things. It's really just that they're very boisterous, and they really all love each other, and they all care for each other in ways that I've not witnessed very often among my American students, even at the collegiate level when we've studied abroad or done other things. So that's been fantastic to see. But yeah, they give you a run for your money. Let me tell you, there's something about a 12, 13-year-old boy who's been cooped up all day long, and it's a lot. So we're working on it, right? It's a work in progress.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So you get to go out every day and have those adventures. And I've had a few too. There's going to be an offshoot of As the Dynason's Turn.
This is what he's planned.
Yeah.
So let's, Jason, share your planning.
It's called Jason in Portugal. It's kind of an offshoot of like Emily in Paris or something. We've got a little Portuguese flag that I'm going to use for the thumbnail, me holding the flag up and for the camera or whatever. And just, I don't know, I call it like the middle-aged white man from Iowa.
Keep going.
Making his way through another country.
And it's doing all of the daily things that you wouldn't think that would be as difficult as they are.
Things like the time I had to go to a physical therapy appointment, and I got trapped in the Continent parking lot because the arm wouldn't work. The arm on the parking gate thing wouldn't open for me afterwards.
I mean, that's definitely true. I mean, you need to be looking at the camera. I'm going to remind you again, instead of at the screen. We now have a desktop computer, which means that we have all kinds of additional tech, which is good. But yes, I think that this will be very entertaining and interesting, seeing what Jason comes up with. And I really think that your idea is that you're just going to be filming yourself when you do these interactions, not the other person, just to be like, okay, because it's illegal to film other people in Portugal.
That's the hard part, is that it's the interactions that are probably the most entertaining. at the grocery store. See, this is what happens. I can kind of understand what people say,
That's true.
but then when I try to talk, even if I look at it on my phone, then I'm like, so we were trying to find hand sanitizer at the grocery store. And
With our favorite checker, by the way. So, I mean, we have a few of them. So it's people that we just love and adore. She's sick for now. And so I'm trying to give her like tea and all kinds of things as we were going through the line. She's like, no, I can't. I was like, no, you definitely need to go and get off your feet. But you're trying to mime to her.
I couldn't remember what the words were to hand sanitizer. I know what hand sanitizer is. It's one of the first things that you learn in the language learning apps, actually, is hand sanitizer. But in the moment, I couldn't think of the word. So I was miming it to her.
He's doing this.
I had my hand held out and I was like squeezing and then rubbing my hands together. And she looked at me like I was completely insane.
Well, you did look a little insane. There weren't a lot of other people in Continent at that time, but you did look a little cracked. I'm not going to lie. You were like,
I suppose it did look a little weird.
That's all right. She's forgiven us. And she, like, we did laugh hysterically after that. All of us laughed really hard after we figured that one out. But it is one of those interactions. Like when you go and you're like, okay, the next thing is we have to get our car serviced. We have a problem with one of our cars. And I think Jason should be the one to help kind of take care of the information when we actually go to the auto shop, because inevitably in an auto shop, no one speaks English or understands English at all. And so this will be a good test run for you. But I think that those are the fun, entertaining things about living in another country and also learning another language. That's part of it. I mean, so many people out there can relate to this, like the faux pas of using the wrong word and then being like, oh, no, we don't say that. Or I don't think you meant to say what you just said. Yeah, things like that. And of course, the language apps kind of help, but again, the pronunciation is completely different. That's what we find, of course, because all the pronunciations of Brazilian Portuguese, which is definitely not the pronunciation here. But in the North, I have to say, people are really helpful. So that's a good thing.
Sometimes I try to say things the same way that the locals do, and it doesn't come out right. Like so I was at physical therapy and the fee was 18 euros, so 18. But in the app, this is in the actual Portuguese app.
Okay.
It's like the d. It's the way that they do that. They swallow some of the word. So it's going to
18. Yeah.
So I said to the young woman at the checkout, well, the receptionist, I said, Zoito. Thinking I was really smart.
I was witness to this. She looked at him like he'd lost his mind, and she's like, 18, and then said 18, and then handed it to him. But you tried.
I tried.
And you've now got a great connection with this receptionist who
She mainly laughs at me, I think, but
hey, I think that trying is all you need to do. I mean, definitely. So I think that those types of interactions are great, but we've learned a lot of things. I mean, you've talked about, you've done physical therapy. We're navigating the health system in a different way, which is fantastic. We do have private health insurance because getting into the public health care is difficult.
They have us down in the system as Brazilians, don't they?
They fixed mine. My public health number works no problem, but we've got to figure out what's going on with Jason and the boys. So yet again, I'm going to go and see what I can get done. But yeah, it says that you all are Brazilian and it won't let them actually use the number. So I have to get that fixed because they did some type of magic when I was there seeing a doctor and then it worked. So we shall see, but navigating all types of things for physical therapy. The boys have had their psychiatry appointments. I mean, you've had psychiatry appointment. We've done therapy. The kids do therapy. I mean, so there's like all kinds of interactions that you've had, and most of the medical staff speak English. Some of them will act like they don't speak English, some of the nurses, and then all of a sudden they're speaking brilliant English to somebody else. And you're like, because you tried to speak Portuguese, which I appreciate, instead of them going, English speakers. So that's been positive. So I think that that's been a very good thing. At the same time, right? We have had a couple of providers that really speak some English, but don't know all of the language enough to be able to have that conversation. So they'll give mix of Portuguese and English. And you understood our last doctor very well.
Yeah.
So input is great. Output, we're working on, right? Let's see, what else?
Well, I think for this episode, we mainly just wanted to start up again. It's amazing how many people say, when are you guys doing this again? They don't really care what we talk about, is what I find.
Well, what I love is this is also partially my fault because I now teach 5 days a week and I'm gone in the evenings and all of those things. And it's been a little bit crazy, which also means that I don't pick up kids in the evening and Jackson takes a bus every day. And Tyler will have to start doing that now that tax season and all those things will be upon us before too long. So I think we've just been really busy. And I think it's because we're living our lives. Like between that, I've got the pottery studio and I'm learning all kinds of wonderful things and going to start selling my work. And I've got book club, which I can't get to because it's, and then we've got friends to do things with. Going out and doing things has been fun. So, I mean, at least we're adjusting.
That's true.
I think that if we spent all of our time talking to all of you, we do miss you, then you should be worried about us if we did this all of the time. But we do owe you more than a 9-month hiatus. So we'll keep working on it.
Okay, well, let's wrap up this episode. Join us again next time. Got to look at the camera right there.
See, he's figuring it out.
Join us again next time for another episode of As the Dynasons Turn.
You've been listening to As the Dynasons Turn, a podcast presented by Dynason Media Ventures. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and catch us again next time for another episode.